Hey, welcome to a new video. Today we are pretty much gonna embrace some of the coolest cars that have ever been built in Japan, specifically Porsches, but not necessarily only that. We're gonna be talking to Kazuki-san, who has pretty much created a brand in the last 2 years that has become so well known out of Japan that we needed to come down here to Okayama to find out what it's all about.
マッドレーンの大橋です。もうマッドレーンを始めて8年目になります。マッドレーンのブランドはもともとそのドレスアップカーをこう作るのが好きで始めた、ブランドでいろいろエアサスペンションとかのパーツを開発してやってきたんですけど、最近はレストアだとかチューニングっていうのがすごいすることが多くなってきて、ドレスアップもチューニングも、レストアもいろいろさせてもらってるっていう感じです。
I just wanted to show you guys what the building looked out from a distance before we go in, because I've been to so many tuning shops and collections in Japan, and it's always hard to find really well curated stuff, but I think today at Madlane we're gonna see how things should really be done. Let's go check inside. All right, it's actually absolutely freezing, probably like -4 or 5 right now, but Kazuki has left the shutter open for us so we can sneak in here and start enjoying what Madlane is all about. You'll see his latest creation there in the main showroom area, but like I was saying, the way this building has been laid out with this massive space right here in the middle is absolutely phenomenal. So we have 2 shutters right here. This is actually where the Madlane workshop is. We'll go inside, take a look at the kind of work that they do for customer cars, because as it started pretty much as a hobby, Kazuki-san has expanded his love for cars with a specific interest in Porsches into a fully fledged business where he's actually helping people create their dream project car. And he's got some really cool cars inside that he's working on. We'll check out some of his really famous builds and sit down with him, kind of understand what his whole idea with the business was. And then we'll check out all the cars in detail, because details are exactly what he specializes on. Everything is meticulously laid out in his cars, just as they are in his shop. So before I ramble on too much, let's head inside and take a look at the showroom. So even just coming in, like I was saying, it's all about details. There's even a Madlane themed carpet here in the entrance, and center stage right here is this beautiful 935 Madlane creation, which was officially unveiled for the first time last year at Tokyo Auto Salon at the Motorhead booth. It's all about the details here. There's a Taisan 962 race car front cowl here, some vintage BBS turbofans, and a massive Advan carbon fiber spoiler right there. All right, so we've seen the showroom. Now it's time to head into the main workshop here. Like I mentioned, the 2 shutters here lead into it. As soon as we go in here, we see an air-cooled exhaust system laying on the ground there. But, let's go inside and check out what this is all about.
そうですね、最初はもう本当に好きで、ただやってくれる人もいなくて、でどうしたらいいかもわからなくて、自分で勉強して、根拠とか理屈がやっぱわからないと自分の車にはなかなかそれを反映させれない自分がいたんで、じゃあ自分で勉強してそういう車を作れるようになりたいなっていう部分からビジネスにつながっていったって感じ。そ そうですね、イメージはやっぱりフェラーリとランボルギーニの、まあ、スラムドにしてホイール変えてみたいなのが最初の始まりだったんですけど、最近はやっぱポルシェが割合も多くて。
ポルシェはいつからなんかインパクトだった？
ポルシェは24ぐらいの時にオーストリアの博物館に行って、そこで本物のレーシングカーの935を見て、もうなんか衝撃が走って、これ乗りたいって思って、じゃあ何からって言ったらポルシェ根本的なところから勉強しなきゃっていう、そこからやってます。いろいろやってるんですけど、まあ、もちろんカーセールもやって、そこからまあ、メンテナンスで、メンテナンスから今度は、まあ、カスタムでオーナーさんそれぞれのこう好きなスタイルにこうホイールも作り上げたり、足回りも作り上げたり、まあ、時にはちょっとエンジンもチューニングしたり、まあ、ペイントもやってるんで、まあ、ペイントとかで、まあ、新しく外装も塗り替えたりとか、いろいろそういうこともやってます。
Alright, so first thing you notice when we enter here is kind of like a storage area for some parts, cars. So we have a wet blast machine here in the entrance to get engine blocks like this 964 crankcase nice and clean before reassembly. You can see how they bring even the intakes down to a perfect clean finish, and then of course recoat them, repaint them, or refinish them as the owners want. There's this sneaky 993 RS hiding here. Beautiful thing. Another project that's in the works here at Madlane, as well as this shell here in the corner. We'll have to wait some time to see before this is done, but as you can see, it's already been painted in the inside. Roll cage color matched, so you can kind of have an idea what the final car will be painted in. Here are some more other parts that are laid out in front of that chassis, ready to be used. Nice rear view of the RS. And over here in the corner is basically where parts get, kept prior to either reassembly or maintenance. Lots of gearboxes here. I'm getting excited just looking at these. But the interesting stuff is actually over here, so we're gonna go and check out the workshop right behind me. There's a curtain separating this room from there because that part is actually heated. Like I said, it's freezing today. So as soon as we come in, we see 3 cars being worked on today. These are all customer builds. We have a 964 here that's in for some maintenance. You can see it's being stripped down, and have a look at the flat 6 there. Once the bumpers and exhaust are taken off, you can actually get to see more of the layout of these cars. But before we take a look at the other 2 cars, I just wanted to show you guys how cool this garage space is. The lighting is on point, stunning. 930 turbo right here in the center. It's running one of Madlane's custom BBS motorsport centered rims. So they actually do a bigger size rim. These are 18s front and back, and they use the original centers, clean them up, and get them looking super cool, maintaining that really nice 80s classic mesh BBS look, which just fits a 930 turbo so perfectly. Like, the attention to detail here is just fantastic. Like, even the snap-on tool cabinets here, or Mac tools, are color coded in the same white as all the rest of the building and workshop, right down to the Madlane logo here. Right next to the turbo we have another beauty. This is another 993 RS. This is a cup car. It was brought in ready built with the GT2 fenders,
but Kazuki said that the build quality was a bit shabby, so they're basically taking it apart and redoing it properly. So it's gonna look really, really clean when they're done with it. Again, this is a customer car, so it's crazy to see that, you know, in a few years, Madlane has really proven to be one of the best hardcore Porsche builders in Japan. You know, not only kind of catering to stance, but you know, kind of utilizing that classical look and bringing these older air-cooled cars into a level of tune that is a great mix of style and function. And people are really trusting him with their cars. I mean, a lot of these cars are actually from Tokyo, so people, you know, ship their pride and joys all the way down here to Okayama. We're about 700 kilometers south of Tokyo, and it's just great to see that, you know, he's managed to show what he's capable of, and that has led to him setting up this amazing business. Right up here, all this area is perfectly laid out to keep the necessary parts needed for the various works that get done here. Anything from suspension, chassis, body breakdown and maintenance, all the way to this specific place here, the engine build room. So this is where the air-cooled flat sixes are taken apart, cleaned up, put together again, rebuilt, made more powerful, more reliable. You can see all the components, all the good stuff that then get bolted up to the engines and then fitted to customer cars. Especially for me, you know, after seeing so many Japanese tuners work out of really confined spaces, sort of like in the back of workshops, really dark working areas, you know, and that has its own charm. You know, I do appreciate the way that Japanese tuners have always worked, but seeing something so nicely laid out always does kind of just look so right, especially when you're kind of meticulously putting together these amazing engines that are pretty much like mechanical watches when it comes down to componentry and the way they work and function. It just adds to it. I think it just looks tremendous, and the way Madlane has really done it really works so well. And right at the center of the whole workshop is this gigantic kerosene heater. Like I mentioned, we're in a very cold area of Japan, and you know, keeping a good average temperature throughout the workshop is very important when you're doing stuff like engine rebuilds. It kind of reminds me what Spoon Type 1 does in Tokyo in their engine build room. It's always temperature controlled, humidity controlled, and it's very important when you're kind of assembling engines or other components that have, you know, very fine tolerances. So you got to take into account the different expansions. So one thing that Kazuki-san showed me before, is a little other room here where he keeps the wheels that will eventually end up on this 993 Cup car. They're already being put together, going for that legendary Madlane kind of vibe. And I say legendary, but he's done it on one car, his white 964 that we saw at Weekfest. It just looks sensational. That car is actually outside, next door to the building, in like the storage area. We'll go take a look so you can understand where the look has come from. And I think, you know, with the RS and GT2 fenders, it's gonna look very cool. There's also other amazing stuff here. 14.5J 18-inch mesh and tires, which are so big, you probably will struggle understanding where they belong. But on a separate video we're doing about Madlane, you'll understand just where these belong. You can see all the parts that have been stripped off the 964 here. You got the light bar there, rear tail lights, all the exhaust system, and all the other components from the various cars around here, right down to some very rare stuff. I just spotted these turbos on top of the cabinet, both K27s. Of course, the KKKs were the turbos of choice. And speaking of turbos, there's an even bigger K28 here sitting on top of the fridge. Right outside is a nice Ferrari 430 awaiting to be taken to the shopping center, one of his customer cars. It's funny how the 935 reflection gets superimposed on the 430. It looks like it's wide-bodied, but it's actually this car reflecting. This is the access to the second floor, and underneath the stairwell are two very special air-cooled motors, which we'll talk about in a second. Right behind there is all the good stuff. We have Poruhead, which is the motorhead version of the Porsche book that they do, Triple O magazine. And right here is an insane selection of vintage BBS race rims. Kazuki-san really loves his mesh wheels, and we will see them dotted everywhere around his beautiful shop here. Continuing on, you go down this little corridor, and then you have this beautiful showroom space here. A bit of an echo in here because the ceilings on this thing are just ridiculously high, probably like 6-7 meters. Absolutely wild. And sitting in here is Kazuki's slammed Ferrari Testarossa with the natural light coming in from the courtyard outside. All right, I'll go check out the second floor here, and instantly another cool 962 race car overlooks the 935 down here. Some old Porsche themed stuff here. There's also a Volk Racing super fine magnesium multi-split rim. A series of really cool posters. These are not replicas, these are the real deal from the 80s. We got the celebratory Porsche wins IMSA 80 with all the Porsche 935 entries. We've got 81, the Jägermeister car, 1982, and the World Endurance Drivers Championship of 81. So these are two very special engines, both NA, already semi-built up for customer cars. This is a 3.6 liter NA. Basically has gone for a flat fan conversion. This whole conversion kit comes from the US, costing about $30,000, if not a little bit more. They're actually going to be running plug-on ignition, so there won't be any need for this. You see the massive velocity stacks. 3 liter from a 930 RSR has already been put together. You can see it runs the Janvey throttle conversion, so 6 individual velocity stacks. They've gone for twin spark ignition. Back past the 430 here to go around the back of the shop where some very interesting cars are stored. And this is where things really get interesting because there's a really sick mix of cars back here, kind of highlighting Kazuki's taste for cars, but also just how much crazy stuff he gets from his customers. This EK9 sitting on Regan Masters is an interesting golf project here from Tokyo. His own 964 Carrera ML, which was at Weekfest last year. Couldn't stop looking at the car at the show, sitting on his original wheels, white on white, and he's carried that super clean look and feel into the cabin, all color matched, roll cage, beautiful interior throughout with a Momo Prototipo steering wheel. Right in front of it, stuff gets wild. This is actually a true Kramer Porsche that he sourced. So potentially this could be one of his future projects. You've seen it here first. It's wild. It'll probably be wilder by the time it finishes. This is another Testarossa, one of his customer cars that is here to get an air suspension system fitted so it can be slammed and also look after some of the issues the car has. And the stuff just keeps getting cooler and cooler. We have a Cup car here, 997 Cup. Just happens to be casually in the center here. You can have a look at the back of the Kramer and this insane old school wide body Benz. Look at this thing. From, I believe, a German manufacturer called Karat. So this is basically a turbo conversion, wide body from back in the 80s. I believe this is a straight 6. Take a look from the front, wide fenders here too. Sick looking thing all the way from Tokyo. Get a look at the front of the 997 Cup car. This is nothing short of a treasure sitting back here. How sick would it be to take out a Cup car on the street? 930 casually sitting here. Lovely green on this car with roof wheels. Okay, I just spotted even more gold. So Kazuki has a bit of a hobby of collecting cows, as you probably noticed. And over there in the back, can you see what that is? That's an F40 cow. That's in a little bit of a state of despair. You can see the carbon Kevlar coming through. It's been obviously in a crash, but easily fixed for display purposes. And casually sitting here too is a 180SX. And looking in the cabin of the 997 Cup car, this is what makes these cars very special. The sequential gearbox. Of course, the 996 that came before it had a straight cut H pattern. Sequential started coming from the 997 Cup onwards. We were hoping for the snow to kind of chill out a little bit today, but unfortunately it's a proper storm. Alright, we are going to open the 935ML to have a look at the crazy engine in the back. Looks like they need a bit of help though to get the whole cow lifted up. They fabricated a specific kind of like support for it.
プロジェクトはたくさんあるんだけど、これはもう本当にレースカーに振っちゃったからかなり。次はやっぱストリートでも走れるレースカーは作りたいなっていう。ストリートで走れるレースカーっていうのは一番欲張りで難しいんだけど、もともとこの 935ML を作ったのは最初もう本当の935が買えないし、ただレプリカっていうのは嫌だったから、じゃあ本物のテイストルーツを混ぜた自分オリジナルの935を作ってみようっていうのが始まりで、システムとかは最新のシステムを入れてるんで、チューニングだったり ECU であったりっていうので、ミッションギアボックスも最新システムを入れてるんで、現代の技術を使ってある程度のスピードに達せれるように作ってはいるんですけど、ちょっともうちょっとまだやることが残ってて。964です。964、うん、彼ら2。エンジンもベースは964の彼らのエンジンをベースで 3.6 から 3.8 に、してツインターボにして、でミッションはパドルシフトのシーケンシャルホリンジャーの997の RSR、 そうフラットファンにして、サスペンションは前後993の GT2 で、後ろのサスペンションも993の足を移植してるんでマルチリンクになってて、でフロントの足ももう GT2 のアップライトとかそういうものを使って組んでるんで、実質964の残ってるところってほとんどないんだけどコンピューターをちょっと今変更してて、でそのコンピューターを最初からこれにテストするわけにはいかないんで、他の車で今テストしてて、よければエンジンかけようかなっていうのがあって、ゴールは大体当時の、もう40年前とかの本物の935よりちょっと速いタイム出せれるぐらいで走れたらいいかなみたいな、そういう目標。パワーは750ぐらいは出ると思います。ブースト上げれば。ウェイトは多分1トン切ってるから950とかじゃないかな。
Alright, so we have the rear cowl open. We can go a little crazy in checking out all the details of this engine, starting off with the twin turbo setup, which is literally hanging off the back of the engine. As you can see, they created a support there to hang both K27, I believe they are, turbos off the back. And they've actually used a pair of Porsche external wastegates that have their own screamer pipe here. That is the exhaust system. So you can imagine how this is going to sound. And each of the two turbos feed the rear mounted, or rather centrally mounted intercoolers back there through these pipes that run all the way back into the coolers and then feed the two separate intake manifolds. And as you can see, the engine is running the same flat fan conversion as the one we saw under the stairs. Of course, it's still not all set up. That's why the belts are not tensioned. And it's still missing the coils and spark plugs. As I mentioned, they're finalizing the ECU, electronics, engine management side of things before the car gets its proper first shakedown test. So you can see how the turbos are literally like where the rear seats used to be on a 964. You can see the intricate piping feeding the intake manifolds. Like, the attention to detail is really amazing. So this FRP door has this massive inset center section to clear the cross pipes of the roll cage, and it's been quilted in this beautiful Madlane logoed fabric. You have the door pull here to actually close the door. Basically, it looks like a proper race car in here. All carbon fiber dash. Even the center console here is carbon. You can see the touchpad adjusters for the stabilizer front and back. So the car runs a Hollinger air shifted sequential transmission. You can see the paddles here. There is no gear selector, just the stabilizer adjustment knobs. The coolest thing here for me is the boost adjuster there. They've gone for the old school kind of like knob, but I love how they labeled it. 1.2 for dead, 1 bar for, I guess, the middle setting, and then alive for 0.8 when you want to take it easy. Custom dials and a big display there for the gear selector. Right, on the passenger side, not much to see. No seat, just the tank for the lubrication, dry sump lubrication. Tank is up here. You get a better look at the center console with the touchpad and the stabilizer adjustments.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this video at Madlane. We kind of got caught out by the weather. As you can see, it's starting to really snow now. But what an amazing space, what an amazing story of basically taking a hobby, a passion, and turning it into a business, and having people really, take notice of the style that you've created, and then, people having requests to basically emulate what you have put together with their own cars. So this is the place you come if you want your personal dreams of your project car, kind of executed. Kazuki really does it so well. The attention to detail is phenomenal. As ever, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It really does help us bring you more content from Japan. Again, thank you so much. Check back soon for more, as we have so much coming from Japan all the time.